Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kind of being part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. First person in the house today, the one and only, La Hermosa, La Preciosa, Yvette Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia. Second person in the house today, Joanne from Los Angeles, California. And the third person, Lee Grant from Montgomery County, Texas. We also have in the house E2247. Patrick Magner says meow from Houston. Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. Lead Bearcat from Austin, Texas. And in the house as well is AVQ, who's not having a good day. AVQ, positive affirmations. I hope that as you listen, if you're able to hang around, that will make the day better for you, my brother. Love you, my man. Love you, my man. All right, Melanie says, happy Monday. Happy Monday to you too. And we also have in the house Salister Waters, who said, hi all. Just listening today, hitting the road. Hit the road, Jack. Won't you come back no more? But I want you to come back all the time, all the time, all the time. Don't hit the road, Jack. Anyway, and in the house as well is Bridge MCP from Binghamton, New York. Alistair's from Conroe, Texas. Michael Rudnin is from Brooklyn, New York. Hey, my mind is working today. My mind is working today. And Paul Fleming is in the house. Paul is from Powder Springs, Georgia. Wow, you know what? I got 8 hours of sleep Saturday morning, man. Unheard of. Unheard of. And it must work because I could just carry on with your cities and states without a problem. And then somebody's going to come in and I'm going to say, oh my God, I can't remember where you're from. Anyway, folks, we got a great program for you today. What's up, guys? What's up? Anybody wants to say anything before I go to any videos or I take on any subject? Anybody interested in giving me a call and starting the week with a phone call? 281-823-7747. I am curious. Eric Hayes is in from Atascocita, Kingwood, Texas as well. Michael Radney says, I got 2 hours sleep again. Remember those repairs last time? Inspector came at 8 in the morning to check the work. Yay, rough day. Oh my God, I feel for you, sir. I feel for you. I remember all that work that you spoke about being done to your place yesterday. All right, who's going to call me first? 281-823-7747. I've got 2 videos for you guys today and 1 story on the Postal Service. So who's going to call us? Bruce Pollard is in the house. He says, howdy. Bruce, how are those new lens doing for your eyes? I'm curious. I am very curious to see how it's going. Anyway, have you guys seen who is the assistant to the incompetent running the FBI? Bongino, another Fox News or another blogger, not blogger, what do you call it? Podcast, another incompetent, a podcaster that was once in the Secret Service, but did nothing of value. And now he is the second in charge, generally the person that handles operation on the FBI, a conspiracy theorist. Folks, what's going to happen the first time? Because a lot of people are going to leave. a lot of people are going to leave the FBI because they cannot be a part of an incompetent charade. What happens when the first terrorist attack occurs? Please tell me, Bongino and Patel? Are you kidding me? And talking about DEI, I have a piece that I did this morning on DEI that I'm going to play. But I want to show you something. You know, you've heard me say several times. You've heard me several times that many of us have to do twice the work for half the recognition, twice the work for half the respect, etc. I want you to look at who is replacing who. We have the chairman of the Joint Chief, C.K. Brown, being a 4-star general with experience, being replaced by a guy that was a fighter pilot, but otherwise had no huge experience. DEI, what are we talking about? It proves our point that without DEI, there are many people that are incompetent, many people that don't deserve the job that gets in. The same can be said for the Secretary of Defense. We had a distinguished Austin, experienced person, 4-star general. He commanded hundreds of thousands of troops. And we have a host of a TV show that was in the National Guard. Replace him. DEI? Who is a DEI hire? Yep, Austin was the DEI hire. He was the DEI hire because diversity, equity, and inclusion guaranteed that the person who was actually competent got the job. Got the job. Now we have these incompetent yahoos. We got women laid off, leaders laid off that paid their dues in the Coast Guard, in the Air Force, and replaced by whom? People that don't have the necessary skills or the competency of those they're replacing. DEI? DEI was there to fix a problem. And that problem, well, I'm going to talk about it in the video that I did before. But anyhow, is there anybody that wants to call in before I play my DEI video? I don't want to play it too early because, like I said, today I only have 2 videos and 1 story. And I was told that you need to go ahead and play some other stuff. So I just want to show you what fraud looks like. I mean, Bridge MCP sent me a video. And this is a video. This should make your, according to the heading of the video, this should make your blood boil. Why? Proud Boy Enrique Tarrio stalking ex-Capitol Police Officer Michael Falone, knowing that he's protected since it's been filmed in a public space. I want you guys to see this because this is pathetic. Let me make sure and get the audio on, and here we go.
You guys are assholes, so please just back off.
You know what's an asshole? Somebody that sits in the sentencing and laughs while I get sentenced to 22 years. That's an asshole. You were brave on Twitter, and your buddy was brave on my sentencing, and he was laughing when I got 22 years. And now you don't even want to look my way, you pretend I'm not here, right? Yeah, keep it walking. Keep walking. Come on, go, go.
You guys are traitors. Just back off.
This is certainly fun. What did you miss out?
You guys were brave on my sentencing, you sat there, you laughed while I got 22 fucking years. Now you don't even want to look in my eyes. You fucking coward. You were a coward that day. You were a coward after.
Just go home. Just go home. You're a traitor to this country.
Yeah, so are you,
Traitor to this country.
You're a fucking traitor.
You're a fucking traitor to this country.
That's why they fired your ass, and that's why your own people turned on you, you piece of shit. You ain't the fucking boy over here. You fucking failure.
Go home.
Little failure. Run from me, motherfucker. Run from me.
He's not staying in the hotel. He's trespassing.
You fucking piece of shit. Run from me.
Fuck you.
Oh, you can say that while you're over there, motherfucker. You didn't do shit.
Bald-headed bitch.
Now, I hate to just play that, but I want to. In what country does a traitor, somebody that beats up police officers like he did? Well, Tario didn't beat up police officers. He's one of the instigators, one of the planners, one of the people who planned it. In what country the guy gets a pardon? He was supposed to be serving 22 years. He gets a pardon, and he confronts one of the police officers that got maimed in that. What country are we living in? What country are we living in, people? I want you guys to think about that. The traitor, they attempted to murder police officers. That's what they did. And you see with your own eyes, Enrique Tario, that thug, Enrique Tario, the thug, the traitor. Think about it. Think about it. And no, Eric, no innocent lady was shot. She broke into the door. She assaulted. She was about to cause harm to Congress people as she busted into that door. Are you blind? Couldn't you have seen that? I normally don't answer stupidity, but I decided to answer this particular one. Because if you can look at that, what happened there, and call that an innocent woman, then you have zero credibility. Well, not like you had any credibility in this room before, but again, come on, guys, come on. Get a life. Understand. Thank you. I'm Bridge MCP. Muchísimas gracias por eso, porque eso es cierto. Eso es cierto. Okay? Bridge has another one for the screen, and let's go ahead and put that onto the screen. We're being very interactive today. That's pretty good. I like that. And according to Bridge, it says, Trump is an idiot and clearly does not understand history. Trump. In the 1890s, our country was probably the wealthiest it ever was because it was a system of tariffs. We had a president, McKinley. Remember McKinley? Okay, sure. Under McKinley, banks failed. Under McKinley, unemployment rate was more than 10% for 5 years. Under McKinley, enacted the Tariff Act of 1890, increased taxes on most imported goods while eliminating taxes on luxury items. Same things, help the rich. The U.S. experienced a deep economic depression between 93 and 94. And finally, McKinley assassinated 6 months into his second term in 1901. Wow. That part there, I don't want to touch. That part there, I don't want to touch. Alistair Water, how are you doing, my dear sister from Conroe? Alistair, you're on.
Hey, brother. Okay, I can't let this go. We got both sidesism going on in the comments, and oh my lord, peanut gallery, calm down. So, not only did Enrique Tario threaten that police officer, Michael, I can't remember his name.
Michael
he had
Falone.
that confrontation with him. Yeah,
Yes.
they had that confrontation. He also called in a bomb threat. He also threatened Michael's mother. He doxed Michael's mother, who had nothing to do with with what happened on January 6th. she just gave birth to a cop who happened to work that day. So tell me, who is more evil? But this isn't a pissing contest about who's more evil than the other. Bad is bad, and you shouldn't condone bad from anybody, whether it's a MAGA or a quote unquote liberal, or if it's bad, period. Call yourself a Christian. Doesn't it say that sin is sin? There is no level of sin. There's not one sin worse than the other, except the unforgivable sin, which can't be named, is not being named. But
I cannot disagree with you.
And I'm sorry. This is just serious bullshit. This both sidesism. What about them? You know what? No. He, without sin, cast first stone. And before you go trying to pull the plank from your brother's eye, or the speck of dust from your brother's eye, pull the plank from your own damn eye.
I could not agree with you. No, it is sad that somebody can see a police attacker like Tario and that their mind is so messed up. And that's what you're seeing in the chat for real, right? That's what you're seeing. It's deeper than brainwash. It's actual evil. And to try to compare that terrorist that tried to break into the house. I mean, this was a woman that was in there with the terrorists, breaking windows. What was she going to do when she got in? They were defending themselves. Yep. These are the same people, Alistair, these are the same people that when a cop goes into a house, and even if the person didn't have a gun, but they thought they had a gun and shot, they would come and they say, oh, well, the cop did the right thing. They are sick. The
cop was doing his job.
Right. They're sick in their
minds. Unless it involves them.
I'm sorry. Here's the deal. Some of the people in the chat are mentally ill. I'm just saying it straight
Get
up.
Help.
They're mentally
Get help,
ill.
Guys.
Really, because you cannot look at that objectively or whatever. They are mentally ill, and I really feel sorry for them because really, it is sad that you can make that comparison.
Idiots like that, brother. It's idiots like that get people with real, genuine mental illnesses that are addressing those mental illnesses a bad
I agree.
name. Probably the same SOBs that are like, oh, they shot up the school because they have a mental illness. Guess what, idiot? Not everybody that shoots up a school has a mental illness.
Some people are just evil. And what and the fact that you can compare
these two, to their own damn good.
The first thing, anybody who saw Tario attacking Fanon, and we know that Fanon was hurt. We know that Fanon was beat. We know that what happened to Fanon. And if you go ahead and watch a terrorist tell Fanon that and can come back and say, well, what about there's something wrong mentally? Anyway, thank you for calling in, sister.
Yep.
You have a wonderful rest of your
Absolutely.
day.
Y'all stay safe and blessed.
All right, take care now. All right, I got to go ahead and play my DEI video because I've been going crazy watching Donald Trump put a whole lot of people in. And I think what Donald Trump did a good job of is pointing out the importance of DEI. Because now that they've pretty much decided they won't deal with DEI at all, it is evident that they're putting in a lot of substandard people, of one particular persuasion, but substandard people, which proves that DEI is there to give others access that otherwise others get and these don't. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. You can find a list of all the things in this guy's first 4 weeks from Project 2025, from destroying the government by laying people off to getting rid of DEI, where in fact right now we've lost women admirals, women officers, women leaders in the gazoo in our military. And I want you to think about this. We were talking about why did Trump get so many women voters when we understand that a lot of his policies were anti-women policies. Women, just like many people of color, etc., under various administrations, including some Republican administrations, have been making strides because their capabilities and efforts were no longer denied. Everybody tries to frame DEI as somehow doing something for those people that are not qualified. Oh, it is a diminishing of standards to get certain people jobs that they don't deserve. That has never been DEI. That has never been affirmative action. Now, has affirmative action or DEI caused the employment of women or people of color that were unqualified? That is a qualified yes. But guess what? From the existence of employment, have there been people, white men and others, employed that had no right having that job? The answer is yes. So that is across the board. So when one singles out, well, that woman was unqualified for that job, it's not DEI or affirmative action that did it. It's the same interpersonal relationships that occurred with hiring in general that would have caused that. But it makes a good excuse, a good narrative to blame a program that ensures all have equal access to success, equal access to a job, to try to make that somehow we are trying to bring people in that are undeserving or bring people in that didn't deserve a job. And that is what we have to run from. But women are seeing that right now with these troglodytes that are running the Trump administration. Because what these troglodytes are doing now is taking us right back to the 20s, right back to the 1800s, as they would make you believe. And I don't blame MAGA for any of this. Many of you are my friends. Come on, you know it. I have coffee with you here in Kingwood. But here's the thing. The psychological game that's been played on too many of us by having us look at the other as being, they are taking something that is mine, that I deserve, just because of how they look or their gender. That has always been false. What has always been true is that people, women, people who look like me, have not had the opportunity, the ability, the entrance, the way to get in. And that's what DEI and affirmative action and these programs did. Don't ever sit back and believe. Like I said, it is true that I have friends, good friend, white guy, look at me and said, I didn't get this job because they were compelled, he said compelled, but they wanted to hire or change the way that company looked, and they hired this guy, and I was the most qualified. Do I believe my friend who told me that? Of course I believe him. But again, that has nothing to do with the program in general. It has everything to do with just what has always happened. And that is what we have to remember. We can't allow them to use exceptions. Well, look at that guy. He has a job and he's not even qualified. Maybe you're right. But I know a lot of dentists. I know a lot of engineers. I worked with a lot of them that were unqualified. I worked at NASA. I worked with a lot of engineers that I sat down and I wondered, how the hell did you get that job? You can't even solve a quadratic equation. What happened? How did you get on? And you know what? For those of my persuasion out there, I found that we had to work so much harder to get the job. I remember, and the company doesn't exist anymore, so I can name it. I remember when I was, did I put that story in my book? Tribulations of an Afro Latino Caribbean Man. I have dozens of stories of how difficult it was because, again, and DEI, my you know what. I remember when I've been interviewed for I worked for a flow meter company, and I remember getting my first interview. They fill out the app, they send resume, everything. They really loved what I did. After all, for Dresser, I wrote a real time loop for data acquisition of for a bond tool. Bond tool is a sonic tool that sends signals to the casing to find a center, and you can use that to find a center and then blow holes into the casing to bring the oil in. And I also did some real stuff in TDS11 and for NL McCullough. So they really liked that because they were getting a big bang for their buck. But when I came and I did the interview, they just couldn't believe that I did all that stuff, right? So I got a second interview, and they queried me and checked me and all of that and checked out references. I thought it was over. I knew I got the job. They called me in, and it was a very good interview. And then they called me in a third time for the interview again, just to make sure, just to make sure. And then they called me in, I think it was I call it a 3.5 time interview, when I got offered the job, but sort of tentatively. I don't quite remember the exact story. But having to be so good to get something. And I never forgot, in that same company, when I wanted the management job, it was actually managing other engineers, but I would be doing some engineering as well. And I said, it was in those days they didn't have local area networks in prominence yet, and I researched it and I installed a local area network, and I created an app system, a software management system that managed everything else perfectly. And I did everything that one would expect of a manager. And I could never forget my boss coming to me, and he bring this cowboy boots wearing guy with a damn hat on. Egberto, he replaced Rudd, my boss, who I loved, the guy who ultimately hired me. He was into me the first time. It's a VP and all these other guys that needed convincing. And I remember he brings this guy to the office and said, this is a guy we hired to replace my boss. And my heart sank because I thought the job was mine. And he said, I want you to teach him everything that you know. And when I tell you, this was a cowboy boots wearing, know nothing, but he was a good old boy, and he was going to be my manager. I couldn't believe it. And I was supposed to teach this guy everything. I said, okay, no problem. I left that building. I went over to those were the days when you didn't really have your cell phone. So I went down to, I think it was a 7-Eleven, because I read the paper every morning when I go to work. And NASA was hiring. We were just starting to build a space station. And I remember going out there, and they were hiring a whole bunch of engineers. And I went there and I called the recruiter, and they said, okay, this is the place that you get the application, and you come down here for the workshop. I went out there, got hired at NASA, and gave my resignation. But the thing that hurts the most is the amount of time. How you had to be, they had to make sure they were hiring somebody that looks like you. They just had to be sure. So this lie about DEI and all of that bringing lesser qualified people, it's the biggest lie. Those of us who got hired as either women or people of color in the aggregate, we know the crap you have to go through to prove that you belong. They can't. They need to believe that you can really do the job, because you don't get the break that that punk that I had to train gets. You don't. You don't. And Lee Grant, I'll be respectful, but that's a stupid to me. Kamala was no DEI hire. She's more competent than the president and than most of the people who've held that office. Period. No two ways about it. Egberto, training your replacement for someone you know isn't worth it is such a gut. It hurt. Let me tell you. And that's the thing, right, Miss Brother Rudnin? People, whenever people talk about being hurt, right? They don't look at people like some of us as worthy of hurt or being able to be hurt by these things. It just happens to you and you just take it, right? It is like the slavery days, you know. You gotta they whip you. You are not. You are the one who knows how to do the crop. You are the one who knows how to mill the corn. You are the ones who know how to. You are the ones who invented the cotton gin that you couldn't get a patent for, and you just stay there, right? And you shouldn't feel any hurt. It just happens. What gets me, and I'm gonna be honest with you, what really gets me is those people who benefit from stealing or harming those who look like me. And I always wonder about this. How do you actually feel about yourself? Because the other people may not know of your inferiority, but the person who you robbed the opportunity from, they know about your inferiority. They do. When I've worked for people that weren't half as good in the work that we're doing, we all know it. And to have to live within your skin when you know there's an incompetent that you're working for, it is painful. You live it, but it is painful. So I can imagine when Austin gets released. Well, Austin was going to get released, but when Austin get released for somebody like Hegseth, an incompetent, moronic buffoon, when he's replaced by that, he has to say, "My God, I had to be so accomplished to get this job," and this Yahoo just walks into it. When C.K. Brown, the Joint Chief of Staff, the Joint Chief Leader, gets replaced by another Yahoo, you sit down and like, I had to work so hard for this, and he gets in. Who does DEI help? Or what does DEI protect against? DEI protect against the incompetent. Against the incompetent. That's what DEI does. And yes, Eric Hayes, name calling is justified here. Because those names are not name calling, those are actual facts. They are incompetent, and yes, that's who they are. Let's see. Steig Bergen Creek says, so would you say Cash is a DEI hire as well, or rather a Trump sycophant hire? He's a TSH, a Trump sycophant hire. Okay. Let's see what else we have. No, they didn't work hard at all. Women have always worked twice as hard for less money. And that is so true. And that is why, Bridge, I just could not get that the women supported Trump. White women supported Trump. You know, it is so disappointing. But again, there is something about the enslaved, right? The enslaved usually have something called Stockholm Syndrome, or they have a tendency to support their masters. Remember the house end that people used to talk about? Hey, massa, you know what they're doing out there, massa? They're trying to escape, massa. It is amazing. My sister Bridge, how are you doing, my dear sister Bridge?
Note taking has stopped.
I'm good. I just wanted to comment on what you were talking about. I mean,
Yes.
you're talking about being a person of color. And when I worked, before I became a programmer and went to college, and
I was a traffic logistics manager, and I also was in charge of the computers under the
Right.
programmer because I did not really know programming, but I worked at Bloomingdale's doing programming. And remember when the hard drives were the size of cakes?
Oh,
Those
I
big,
do remember
gigantic
that.
hard
Oh
drives you had
yeah,
to switch out?
big, big, big.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, oh, they were huge. But anyway, I was in charge of that, and it was an import company, and it was very large, one of the largest rattan and wicker importers
Hmm.
in the United States. And I was running the warehouse as well. Now, it wasn't my duty to run the warehouse. That wasn't part of my job. But since I did all the import coming in, we had 6 warehouses from here to California and 200 containers coming in a month or a week sometimes. It was crazy. And finally, they got a warehouse manager. Now, I had been complaining I needed more money. I said, this is ridiculous. I'm doing the job of 5 people here.
Hmm.
And he went and he hired a warehouse manager, and who was really not qualified, and white guy, and I had to train him. I said, why do I have to train him? He's a warehouse manager. Give him the specs and let him go. No, you should train him. Give him a couple of weeks of training. I said, on top of everything else, and still running all these warehouses, I have to train him? And they said, yeah. And so I was like, oh, God. So I tried to, but he was an idiot. And I could not get this through. So finally he was fired because he really couldn't do the job. And they told me that would be my new responsibility. I said, okay, I'll do it, but I want more money. I want what the men make. You know, I'm right under the VP and the president. I want more money. And they said, well, you're a woman. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, the men have to, you know, support their wife and their children. And I said, well, so do I. I was in a relationship for like 17 years. Yes, it was a gay relationship. And yes, I had a daughter. And yes, I had a house. And they were like, doesn't count. I said, so the only thing that's different is that I don't have a penis? And the boss laughed and laughed. He was a little vulgar. So I went down to Greenwich Village and I bought the largest black dildo I could find. And I came in on Monday and I went into the president's office and I threw it on his desk. I said, here, now I have one. I want my raise. I want $10,000 raise and I want it today. He laughed so hard at what I did that not only did he give me the raise, he bought the damn dildo.
You got the raise.
Well, it took a while because he kept on not putting it off and putting it off. So what I did was I held up shipments. We get 200 trailers a day, you know, in shipments. So I just held off paying them. And he's like, we're getting bills over. Why aren't you paying them? I said, pay me. You pay me and I'll do it.
Hey, you know what? You know what is so funny? What is so funny, Bridge, is the following. Here it is. Instead of hiring you to keep doing your job and hire somebody to work underneath you, which is in effect what he did, because he hired somebody that he wanted you to train. Why not let you be the person and that person works under you as you're training them, and then you would have a backup? That's what would make sense, right? It would make a lot of sense. And the thing about it is, that's what people of color and women suffer, that indignity. And again, here's the problem, right? It is so matter of fact that this is done. And it's so matter of fact that you are not honored with having feelings. In other words, you can't go through that. You don't feel that pain like that. You know, when Rudnin tells me that it's a punch in the gut, it's a punch in the gut. And that's exactly what it feels like. There's another story that I have in Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man, Bridge, and it went like this. And sorry for kind of changing the subject of the show today, but I think these stories being told, while some people may find them, I don't care about that, others would say, wow, I'm glad I'm hearing other people have that experience as well. But I remember many times, there was and I can name the company now because I don't think they're in existence. Transco had a set of products that would go out there in the field, and it had to stay. Well, they wanted it to last 30 days in case there's a power fail They wanted it to be able to hold a transmitter failure. They wanted it to in the middle of Timbuktu to hold the data for 30 days or so, right? And they had all this equipment. They bought millions of dollars of these equipment, and it looked like it was going to go to waste. And not only go to waste, but that they were going to have to rebuild this equipment. And in the oil industry, there's something called intrinsically safe. What it means is that your product has to not create sparks and all of that, and it has to go through a lot of regulations, etc. So when you design a new product with electronics, it may take you almost a year before you can put it out in the market. So they're looking into that. Well, oh my God, we're going to put a lot of this equipment in the market. And then later on, we're going to have to swap some of these things out with the ones that can hold the data for a long time. So my boss come and he drops all this code, about, I don't know, 6, 8 inches worth of code on my desk. And I spend all night going through the code, etc. And they are thinking they have to rebuild this whole system. So they send me the diagram of the computer system as well as the software. And I go into my boss's office the next time, and I said, you don't have to, you won't have to go through intrinsically safe regulations or anything. You know why? I found a solution. I found a solution using the equipment that we have here, and looked at them and said, hey, we have 2 computers in one computer. This display computer has a lot of memory that's unused. I can create a protocol between these 2 computers over this link to do the job, and we just store the excess data in the other computer. I gave him the whole scenario. They go to the designers of the system, the guys who built the SolarFlow Plus, and said, hey, our engineer says this is what can be done. And the people from SolarFlow Plus, the guys who invented this, created the stuff, said, oh, no, that can't be done. That can't be done. And so my boss, I look like a fool now, right? So I told my boss, I'm absolutely sure this can be done. And here is the reason why. They bring the guy down from, not Fort Worth, I don't remember, up North Texas, down here. And when I brought Whipple Floating Point, never forgot the guy. He goes ahead and when he comes on and he looks at it, he said, oh, my God, yeah. That will work. Save the company millions of dollars because something that would have taken a whole year, we did it in 3 weeks. This is their DEI hire. This is their DEI hire, right? Okay, so now they do it in 3 days. Let me tell you the part that hurts the most now. Transco, who was buying the product that we had built by a company near Fort Worth, is bringing all their engineers over for our analysis. So they are going all into the boardroom. And my boss comes to me and he says, Egberto, I want you to teach everything that you did to, I don't remember his name. Let's call him David. And I'm like, but he said, and then he says, because your time is too valuable. The funny thing about it is I had nothing to do. I had completed the project. So I'm twiddling my fingers. And I said, really? He said, yeah, I want you to show Ken. Ken was his name. I want you to show Ken everything. And then, Ken is going to go ahead and give the presentation. So Ken goes in and gives the presentation to the board. And you have all these engineers from Transco in that room. And I am left out. The guy who figured it out, designed it, wrote the code, everything left out. Okay? No problem. But the VP of the company keeps coming to my office. Hey, what happens if this occurs? What happens if that occurs? And every time I am giving them the answer because the engineers are shooting questions. Getting a computer software to work is one thing. But the thing that worries you the most are the exceptions. What happened when this condition occurred, that condition, etc. And if you didn't design the product, you don't know. And I couldn't tell him all the different conditions. I needed to hear what the engineers had to say. And then I'll tell him, well, to solve that, I've done it this way, X, Y, Z. So the boss finally decided to come, the VP, into my office and said, Egberto, just come on. And I went into the board and I go into that board. This is in the late 80s. I go into the board and all these rednecks' eyes just turned to, and I never forgot the weight that I felt in the room, but I'm smiling. I'm used to it, right? And then I started hitting the numbers so darn fast. By then they forgot what I looked like and everything was going completely on engineering terms and not on in some of these clowns' faces DEI terms, right? So by the end of the discussion, all these engineers are happy and they're backslapping and wow, we did it and we don't have to wait a year and this stuff is going to be able to go in the middle of Timbuktu, Texas, in the middle of the desert and we can keep for 30 days of data. Everything was fine. But my boss showed his own prejudice by being scared to have his black engineer go into that room with a whole bunch of white engineers to go ahead and say, I am the one who found a solution that didn't require them to rebuild the system. That is, and so whenever I hear about DEI, whenever I hear about affirmative action, did I get a job because of affirmative action? There's a damn good chance I did. There's a damn good chance DEI, it wasn't called DEI then, gave me the job. But it didn't give me the job because I wasn't competent. I got the job because without that program, they would not have even looked at me. They wouldn't have checked my competency. Right. And that is what folks don't understand.
No, they don't. You know, that I hate that shit. I mean, and you said it was in the 80s, right?
That was the late 80s. Yes.
That's when this was happening to me. And I remember going into a board meeting with our biggest customer then was Kmart, I think. And we went to a board meeting, and we're all sitting around. I'm the only female there, but I was almost a VP, and we're all sitting there. And my boss, the president, turned around and said to me, now he had a secretary. I was not the secretary. And he turned around to me, goes, could you go get me a cup of coffee? And I looked at him like, are you kidding me? I'm in the middle of like 15 men. And he turns to me, I'm sitting on his right, and he says, go get me a cup of coffee, will you? I'm like, you have a secretary. I said, well, can't your secretary do that? We're in the middle of
I got a story for you.
He goes, no, you can do it.
The story that I have is worse. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said, okay, I'll get you coffee. And I went into the lunchroom, and I got him a cup of coffee, and I put salt, pepper, mustard, and every other thing that was in that refrigerator into that cup of coffee. And I came out, and I said, here you go, guy. There you go. There you go. And I put it down on his desk, and he took one sip and almost vomited. And I looked at him, and I said, do not ever ask me for a cup of coffee again. I'm not your slave.
That is so funny. But let me tell you, in my case, this was how this guy dealt with secretaries. We would have our meetings in the VP's office. You know, the way projects work at NASA, you have a whole lot of subcontractors, and they have a lot of VPs in the office. So we're in the VP's office, and we're talking. And whenever this guy wants coffee, he's sitting down near the door. He holds a cup in his hands, and he just puts his hands out the door.
Oh, my God.
With the secretary running to get the coffee and filling it up. Those secretaries loved me because I would tell her, let me tell you something. You didn't see that cup. The next time he does that, you didn't see that cup. Is that understood? You didn't see it. Okay, because if he wants coffee, he can call and do the decent thing and ask for it. And I wanted to show you, and you know, I don't address ridiculous statements, but here's what Eric responded to my stuff that occurred with Solar Flow Plus. He says, "But you got the job and you did a good job." You see how that goes without it. I mean, it doesn't even show the empathy that I had to fight harder. These are the same guys that called Kamala DEI hire. And they cannot realize that for us to get to that position, we had to work much harder than they did to get to that position.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Twice as hard to get to that position. I mean, they have no clue because they have white privilege.
Exactly. And that is what I speak about. And that is a problem that we have to solve. And that is why Donald Trump has put, and sorry guys, I had I think I still have time for this. No, I'm going to let the 7-minute video go. But this, I think, is an important discussion because in as much as I'm talking about a personal issue, women will understand this. White women, black men, everybody of color would understand this. White men like white men of integrity like Michael Rudnin, Bruce Pollard, they understand they understand the concept as well of it's not just about we got the job. It's that what we had to do, and it is painful. But I've learned to, when I tell people I've got thick skin, and by the way, guys, and this is why I always tell people, go get my book, please, because I have a ton of those stories. And in the long run, there's some that I've forgotten to write about that I'm going to have in the second edition of this book, Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. Because, and every white guy that doesn't think like Michael Rudnin or Bruce Pollard or May Wood should get this book. Okay, well, although you should get the book, and let me tell you why. Because I think it could generate some empathy, things that are not standard or not normal. And by the way, you can get it at politicsandright.com/books. Politicsandright.com/books.
I don't know if they can read that book.
Or otherwise, you can get it somewhere else too. You can go ahead and be a paid subscriber of our newsletter by going to politicsandright.com/newsletter. If you become a paid subscriber, all of my books, all 5 of my books you can read it for free as a paid subscriber.
Egberto, look, I can't remember the woman's name right now.
Which one?
What was the woman that worked at NASA, the mathematician?
Oh yeah, from that I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
That is the other thing I heard. That's the only. John Glenn would not fly. John Glenn refused to fly unless the calculations were done by her. Right? John Glenn would not fly the capsule.
Everything's named.
Yeah.
She got the President's Award. I mean, could you imagine that was in the 60s? And she's a black woman at NASA.
Her name was.
People don't realize, what is
Katherine Johnson. Katherine Johnson.
Yes, Katherine Johnson.
Katherine Johnson. Yes. Okay.
That's her name.
And it's amazing because that's the thing, right? The thing about, and for all our listeners out here, let me tell you, when you hear Donald Trump and all these racists speak, stop listening to the white guy racists and talk to people like Bridge MCP, a decent white woman. Speak to people like Michael Rudnin, a decent white man. Speak to black folk. Speak to the people that are actually going through these things of what the system has done to them. Understand what's going on with them. Michael Rudnin said, Egberto, I understand that you have to be more than twice as good to get on par with those coasted through life. And I know that I'm one of those who coasted through life, but I'll never begrudge those who put in the effort and work their whole lives to get where they are. I admire such expertise. Yeah, and look, and I admire that, but I don't know if people understand. I admire all those people also who were reared a certain way and taught them. Bridge, are you still there, Bridge? It looked like a lost. Oh, you're there. Yeah, I so admire people who have they haven't lived it, right? But they can empathize with it, and that's what I always say. I am not a woman, right? There are a lot of things that you've gone through, Bridge, as a woman.
You're not?
That I could never, that I could never go through. There are so many things that you have been through as a gay woman that even makes it that much more difficult. And I, in the past, would have been your not nemesis, but somebody who you would probably have to hate, right? And in teaching myself, because of how I was reared, I opened my heart, my mind up to having been stupid, to having been ignorant, to having been an a-hole. I acknowledge that about myself when it comes to sexism and homophobia. And I made sure to atone for that. And I continue to atone for that. I overdo it when it comes to making sure that women are represented, making sure that that gay folk are represented because of my past way of being with those two particular groups. I'm from Panama, Central America, Latin American, Caribbean, and Black. All the things that gives me those markers, right? And I just wish more people. Yeah, tell me about it, sis. I just wish more people had the ability. No, it's not the ability, because we all have the ability. I wish everybody had the wherewithal to say, I am willing to put away how I was reared to do the right thing, to understand the humanity in everybody else. Imagine what kind of a country we could have, Breach. Imagine. And
It would
that's
be
one
so
of the
much
things that I like to
different. I mean,
preach.
The thing is, my brother's like that. He's completely for women and everything. He's completely for all of that. And I was going to say one more thing. When I worked at that warehouse, and we had about maybe 50 warehouse guys that worked, mostly Spanish guys or black. And then we had the Polish people that were here illegally, that we had to build a wall to hide them in when, the immigration people came. And the funny thing was, the president of the company escaped Poland and on a train, and so he lived through that. And my mother would work there part-time, and he was very friendly with my mother because she also lived through World War II. Americans did not live through World War II. We fought in it, but we didn't live it. But I treated my warehouse workers, I mean, as a traffic manager, I got so many deals. Hockey, this, football, basketball, nights out in the town, going to Rockefeller Center, all these tickets. And what I did is I went down and gave it to the warehouse workers. Why shouldn't it? At Christmas holiday, we had a holiday party. The office holiday party and the warehouse holiday party. And one Christmas I said, this is bullshit. Why are we not celebrating with all the workers? Why are we just up here in the office when they're down there having their own party? I'm going downstairs. And 50% of the people all came with me. Then it became one party downstairs in the warehouse.
There you go.
When you do that, people will follow you. You just have to stand up. But
look, we're at closing.
I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
We are out of here, Breach.
Sorry.
Yeah, man, we are out of here. But you know what? I think, Breach, I think this was an important segue from what we're supposed to talk about today, because it's all happening today, and Donald Trump has brought a level of hate unseen in this country for a long time. And I think
remember this one point. Remember that Pete Hegdwix, whatever his friggin' Nazi name is. Remember, he's a DUI hire.
Exactly. There you go. No doubt, a drunk that's running the place now. It's amazing. And I've seen him look kind of drunk when he was in Europe. Anyway, thank you, Breach. Anyway, folks, we got to get out of here. But beforehand, thank you, sis. Before we get out of here, I want to ask you guys to support the program however best you can. And you can support the program by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, and subscribe, become a paid subscriber. If you become a paid subscriber of Politics Done Right, guess what? You are helping promote this message. And here we go right there, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I have the link in the chat right now. Alternatively, you can also, if you're on our Substack platform, just go ahead and join. Click ahead and subscribe to become a paid subscriber. You'll be supporting something worth supporting. I promise you that. We don't only do two shows, one on air at KPFT 90.1 FM that goes all over the world, as well as we do it here at 3 o'clock completely online, as well as we write tons of blogs and articles for newspapers and blogs and websites, because, again, we have to populate the internet with the progressive message to counteract that which is being done by the right-wing corporatocracy. We can only do this if we're funded. And right now, I'll be honest, we've depleted most of. You can read the story of how we got started with this for quite some time. But let me just say, folks, we are worth your support. And I ask you kindly to become a paid subscriber of our newsletter. We are far from where we need to be, but you can take us there. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.